You and welcome to another exciting time on Drtv. The program is Business Angle, and we begin the program as usual with the Nigerian stock market report. The market ended the second trading session of the week on a negative note. The all-share index dropped in 0.74% to close at 42,043.79 index points against 0.16% splurge recorded on Monday. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at 4.40%. Nigerian Bourse trading turnover at Tuesday's trading session printed slightly negative, has volume dipped by 5.25% as against 12.40% recorded on Monday. UBN, Transcorp and FBNH were the most active to boost market turnover. The market breadth closed negative as Champion led 8 gainers as against 49 losers, topped by Burgas at the end of the day's session. Naira weakens at NAFEX window, hits a record of 416.95 Naira per dollar during trading. The exchange rate during the intraday trading traded for as high as 416.95 Naira per dollar. On February 2nd, 2021, the exchange rate between the Naira and the dollar depreciated, closing at 395 Naira per dollar at the NAFEX window where the forex is traded officially. This is as dollar supply rose significantly by 146.9% as demand put pressure on the foreign exchange market. The federal government has extended the ongoing National Identification Number NIN and Subscriber Identity Model SIM integration exercise by 8 weeks with a new deadline for April 6, 2021. According to a statement signed by the Director of Public Affairs, Nigerian Communication Commission NCC, Mr. Ikechukwu Adinde, and Head Corporate Communication National Identity Management Commission NIMC, Mr. Kayode Adekoge. The extension conveyed by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Mr. Dr. Issa Patami, during the meeting of the Ministerial Task Force on NIM-SIM registration was held on Monday. Dr. Patami stated that the extension is to give Nigerians and legal residents more time to integrate their NIN with their SIM. At the meeting, it was also disclosed that 56.18 million NINs have so far been collected by mobile network operators. And again, a report from the World Bank says that Nigeria would need to implement key reforms in order to get the economy out of the current recession, economic downturn, also indicating that poor Nigerians will increase by 15 million naira. The World Bank senior economist Gloria Joseph noted that COVID-19 hit the nation's economy very hard after the country experienced in 2020 its deepest recession since the 1980s and the second in 5 years. According to her, Nigeria needs to push forward policies that will help to improve business environment and improve the welfare of the average Nigerians. And she also added that Nigeria is at a critical junction in the sense that the achievement of its developmental goals of lifting 100 million people out of poverty by 2030 was already challenging even before the COVID-19, and that the COVID-19 coming as also with high inflation rate, losses of jobs, there's still not no possibility that it's going to look good for the nation. Well, we have a lot to talk about, but we have someone who would make sense out of some of these issues and others. Is Mr. Patrick Edem, my regular face on the program. So pleased to have you with us, sir.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's begin with the World Bank report that says that poor Nigerians will increase by 15 million naira. 15 million soon. We'll have more 15 million Nigerians in the poverty bracket. What would be your take, considering the projection that came, by the finance minister Ahmed Zainab, and of course the governor of Central Bank, Governor Mefele, projecting that there will be a positive outlook for the nation in the first quarter of 2021. With this coming from the World Bank, what would be your stance?
They're looking at the indices. Even though the government has said that they want to lift 100 million Nigerians from poverty in the next 10 years, knowing too well that the lifespan of this administration is will terminate by 2023. But it is not about the administration's lifespan, but the programs. If they're able to sustain, put in place programs that will sustain that drive. But honestly speaking, like I've said before, the infrastructure deficits could also be responsible for this forecast by the World Bank. Don't forget too that the COVID-19 is still ravaging a lot of companies. They are scaling down. People are working from now, especially now that the space is being governed today by technology. People work from home, and that means that fewer persons are needed at the workplaces, and then more people are at home, not working. And then some of these companies are also shutting down. They are also reducing, cutting down pay. If you look at, for example, if you look at what came in at this transfer window, talking about football in Europe, for example, you can see that the cost. They didn't throw money around this time around the way they used to do, because gate takings reduced. A lot of other things that were generating funds did not apply. Not talk of the African continent, where we have a lot of these people who are not actually taking advantage of the opportunities from football, from sports generally. So that forecast is, I'm sure, hinged on the inability of governments across the continent not to, apart from some few countries that are actually forward-looking, working on their infrastructure, addressing insecurity, and then also working out other modalities to ensure that they increase GDP. Because once GDP is increased, the multiplier effect is that you see people getting one or two things to do and generating revenue and creating jobs and commerce. So I believe that the indices they used are quite suggest what they are saying, even though there's a forecast. Don't forget too that the forecast is also based on the crude oil price at the international market, not because we are generating so much economic activities, yes. But as at this morning, the oil, the price, the benchmark is about $58, and that's what they are looking at. And once that happens, in the next 1 to 2 months or so, that tells you that okay, fine, GDP will increase, and the percentage of increase, even though it's marginal, that's what the finance minister is banking on. But in terms of the manufacturing sector, agri, we are still not there yet.
Yes, and to see that the budget, the 2021 budget, is hinged on the expected revenue that will be generated from the crude oil, from oil and gas industry. But let's look away from the World Bank report. Let's talk a bit about the gas explosion. We're talking about the economy and how the economy can, pick up the little pieces and, looking towards reviving the economy. But yeah, there's another concern. Gas explosion just occurred in Agbo last week, and it led to the loss of lives,
the pain,
and destruction of property worth millions of naira. We did a report on the gas explosion. I would like us to see that before we continue.
It is still fresh in the minds of those who lost their loved ones to the fatal gas explosion that occurred in Agbo. While victims learn to find hope again, the question still begging for answers is, couldn't this sad event be avoided? If all standard safety guidelines were duly followed and all agencies saddled with the responsibility to enforce compliance had done their homework, wouldn't it have been a different story? There are stipulated guidelines for the siting of a gas plant. These guidelines determine the approval and license for the construction, installation, modification, relocation and operation of liquefied petroleum gas facilities. The Department of Petroleum Resources is the regulator that gives the approval for siting of a gas plant upon fulfillment of certain criteria. The site shall be granted approval only when it meets the following criteria. 1. It does not fall within any pipeline right of way. The site should be accessible from the roadside. All setbacks by relevant agencies should be observed as it affects overhead electric cables, railway lines and pipelines. The distance of the proposed LPG storage tank location shall not be less than 15 meters from another property which may be built upon and 50 meters from public buildings, hospitals, schools, parks, train, metro stations, mosques, churches, etc. The drainages to be constructed or existing ones shall not be channeled to a stream or waterway. Contaminated water should be contained and treated on site. The proposed site shall not constitute a threat or hazard to the area. The proposed site shall not be sited under electric high tension wire. In the light of these procedures and guidelines, it is expected that strict adherence would not pose a risk to lives and property. It is however unfortunate when deliberate disregard of safety protocols and negligence result to huge loss of lives and property. It is a common sight to see siting of gas stations in residential areas with close proximity to buildings. Following the recent explosion, the state government represented by the Commissioner of Environment, Mr. Chris Onogba, called on all relevant agencies to ensure strict compliance to all safety guidelines as it concerns siting of gas plants.
Every nook and cranny of the state, you see either a small gas outlet or a major gas plant all over the places, and I wonder why the approving authority will give license to this operator to locate some of these gas plants where it is located. In some cases, you find out that some of these gas plants or outlets are located in densely populated residential area, and that is very wrong. That endangers the lives of the people.
While the victims of the gas explosion get necessary support from government and well-meaning Nigerians, it is imperative that required steps is needed to avoid future reoccurrence.
Patrick Edema, you saw that report, and it's very painful to see that avoidable accidents still occur and cost lives. You know, incredible number of losses at that gas explosion in Agbo. And we've recorded several gas explosions around the country, and most often is attributed to the wrong siting of gas plants. Why would a gas plant be sited in a residential area? You know, before the approval of the siting of this gas plant, there's requirement, guidelines, the distance that is required from that, you know, location of the gas plant from every other building around. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
You see, DPRO is to approve licenses for siting of gas plants.
Location and operation of
the approval, the building permit or approval is done by the state government. So the Ministry of Lands and Surveys that is saddled with that responsibility ought to know the nature of property that ought to be sited in a particular location. And so what we've had over the years, sometimes when you look at the master plan of maybe Warri or the state capital, for example, there are areas that are designated as residential, areas that are designated as farm settlements and all that. But sometimes when some of these, when they apply for the certificate of occupancy for these properties, they will go and deceive the authorities that they want to use it for school or for a hotel or something, and at the end of the day they end up siting gas plants in residential areas. But I keep saying, the oversight functions of the relevant authorities, like the legislature, for example, the oil and gas House Committee on Oil and Gas, House Committee on Environment. So even if there's compromise from the executive arm embodied by the Ministry of Lands and Surveys and Ministry of Environment, then the House committees that are also oversighting these ministries ought to do what is right, because you can't tell me that they are not seeing these gas plants that are sited in residential areas. Who ought to rise that? So in the first instance, the first thing was, if they draw the attention of DPRO, for example, in collaboration, because the synergy between all the different government arms and organizations, they close down these plants and ensure that they don't operate in those places. But what do we get? It's business as usual. As a matter of fact, it doesn't add up when you see this kind of things happen, and then we go about as if nothing is happening. Look at the quantum of lives that have been not just in Agbo alone. In addition to that, it's only in this part of the world that you still use tankers to transport inflammable materials. Do you know what it means when a gas tanker explodes in a traffic buildup? Do you know what that is going to mean? We have cases where I remember at Onitsha, at Opi Weka, where a tanker ran into a motor park and burst into flames not too long ago, killing several innocent Nigerians. It's only in this part of the world that a government will allow that kind of thing to happen. And look at the multiplier. Look, so it down to everything rises and falls on leadership. Any leadership that will not allow the right thing to be done, the pipelines are there, but that is by the wayside. So, but citing gas plants in residential areas is an anomaly. Even those who are selling gas cylinders in shops, because any little spark will cause damage of monumental proportion. So the leadership of this country, the DPRO leadership, Ministry of Lands and Surveys, Ministry of Environment, they must stand up to their responsibilities and ensure that we address this crisis. Agree that in those places, we used to have industrial areas where things like that, you just concentrate them in a particular. So if you want to fill your gas, you drive outside the town to go and buy and then come back to your house. So we need to go back to that era so that we can mitigate the level of losses, the destruction that this madness has inflicted upon us as a society.
While we wait for government to do something, of course, I believe that with the recent occurrence at Agbo, the state government is obviously looking towards checkmating, issues that led to the gas explosion. What should the ordinary Nigerians like you and I, who have homes close to these roadside, retailers who engage in the sale of gas,
is to raise the alarm. It's to raise the alarm, because if it happens, even if the owner of the place, at the end of the day, and most times these places are not even insured. So when we say, okay, probably there is a fire outbreak and then lives are lost, and then it's okay, let the insurance firm now come in to see how they can pay insurance and all that. But how much insurance are you going to pay that will bring back life for people that have been lost in the inferno? So I believe that once residents see that this kind of things happen, they should raise the alarm. I know that people say, you, like we say, you won't push and sound for person Gary, but of what benefit would it be? The person that is selling gas in a residential area, if it happens, both the people in the place and those who refuse to talk, they will pay the price. So it is incumbent now on residents to be on the alert and raise the alarm. If you see anything like that, let them relocate, go to places. That's the only way we can save our lives. Otherwise, if we continue to say, oh, it's my brother, it's my sister, so therefore, if I go and say that, they will say I'm the witch or I'm the wizard. That does not, that is, I'm envious. That's why I went to report to the authority. But my life first. So we must, as citizens, just like what we have today now, today we have citizen journalism.
Yes. Where
you notice something that is untoward in a location, you can film with your phone and send to a media house. or you post in social media, even though we know that there are some issues with that now, but it has gone a long way in actually putting people under check to a very large extent, where any little thing you are doing now, you don't, the next time you find yourself in the social media. So people, you are wary. So that is the kind of, you know, responsibility we should take as citizens to report things like to save lives and property.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the petroleum industry bill. Indications have emerged that the petroleum industry bill may suffer setback if the federal government fails to approve the 10% operational gains being demanded for by the host communities of Nigeria producing oil and gas HOSTCOM. The group, which said that they are the host directly impacted communities and the mouthpiece of the grassroots communities producing oil and gas, said it is what they deserve after 60 years of marginalization and bearing the brunt of the negative impact of exploration and exploitation. The national president of the group, Benjamin Taramnebi, made this known during his presentation at the hearing of the PIB bill. Well, at the public hearing, you know that there was a rancor, there was a fight between or among some representatives of the HOSTCOM, and they are agitating for 10%. The bill is, providing for 2.5%. The HOSTCOM communities are requesting for 10%. Before I will get your views on this, we had a conversation with an elder statesman, Chief Julius Babwa. He has something to say about these agitations by the host communities. Let's take a listen.
We'd like to hear your opinion about the recent PIB bill that relates to the host communities, and highlighting also some of the agitations that they are putting forward. And we recall that host communities representatives of the HOSTCOM had sort of an argument, a physical fight at the public hearing. I would like to also hear your opinion about that.
Well, my opinion about the rancor that took place, the fight that took place at the bench, I will attribute it to personal advertisement, personal interest. They didn't go there for the generality of the people. In fact, I want to say they did not even go there to represent the people of the Niger Delta. But if they have gone there during the suffering of the common man to discuss, it shouldn't result into fighting. So if it results into fighting, which means each of them has gone there with the hope, with the mindset that what am I going to grab from this meeting? I will either shortchange my people in whatever thing I'm going to repeat. So that is the interest they've gone there for. It is not a general thing. They don't have a general sense, a general mindset of representing the people. So that's my take about it.
Quickly, the next question. The old communities are requesting for 10% equity share. Can you explain to us what all of this thing entails? They're saying they don't want the 2.5% that the PIB bill is proposing. Can you educate us further?
Oh, of course. The 2.5% they were paying to the host community was a blatant attempt to defraud the people of the Niger Delta. It has all been defeated. That is what they have been orchestrating, minimizing the people's power by suffocating them through economic deprivation. So, if the host come and asking for 10%, they are even asking less. We should be asking for 50%. Because the suffering that is going on in the Niger Delta, those oil companies, they don't suffer this thing. They don't suffer it. It is the host communities that are suffering. So asking for even 10%, they are even being lenient in their demand. So I would have encouraged them to go ahead and say 50%. To let the federal government and whoever the oil company that are working, let them come to bid. Let them come to argue for what they will pay.
Okay.
So the 10% is even too minimal. It's even too small.
Okay.
That's my own way of thinking.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So Patrick Edema, you heard the elder statesman speaking about the 2.5% equity shares that the bill is proposing, and of course the 10% that the host communities are requesting for. I think this could also have led to the rancor and fight that took place at the public hearing. I'd like to know your thought about that. Is that 10% even enough for the host communities, considering the level of impact, negative impact that oil exploration has, done to their respective communities?
You see, it is quite painful that we witnessed a show of shame at that hearing. I'm sure those who masterminded the plot, this is what they were expecting to see. Where we know that in a true federation, we don't talk about this kind of things, where states are given opportunity to control their resources. Now we are fighting for a paltry 10%, and look at what happened. Look at elderly men who went there just to articulate the views of the host communities, and it resulted into a fisticuff. It's very painful. But that is the narrative, sad narrative as it is today. Honestly speaking, what is even 10%? When you look at the devastation, look at the impact, some of the things happening to us, those of us in the Niger Delta today. If you want to look at the cumulative effects, 10% is an insult. But we understand that those behind, the first question is that if you look at the politics that led to this petroleum industry governance bill, as part of the PIB was broken into 3 bills. One of them is the host community entitlement protection bill, and then the petroleum industry fiscal bill, and then we have the petroleum industry governance bill. 3 bills, all in an attempt to whittle the powers of the communities producing these resources. Today we are talking about the forecast by the ministry about the GDP is that it is because of the increase in the sale of price of crude oil, not any other thing. So, but we are here talking about 10%. So for me, it's just a waste of time. The first instance, how did they arrive at the 2.5%? Because the industry players, the OICs, that's the international oil IOCs, they have gone to lobby. The lawmakers, at least they've seen them and they've gone to lobby. So how did they arrive at the 2.5%? Did they consult with those communities? Lobbying is allowed in democracy, but before they arrived at that 2.5, who did they consult? And now our people went there, and because they just wanted one person to speak. How can one person speak? Niger Delta is heterogeneous in nature. So for me, that 10% is an insult. What we should be talking about today is how we can harness every state in this country is endowed with natural resources, whether be it gold, be it bitumen, be it coal, be it cocoa, be it whatever it is, so that we can this feeding bottle mentality, where if they don't give to you, you cannot get. We have to de-emphasize it and ensure that, in fact, today nations are moving from resource economy to knowledge economy. There's a migration from resource to knowledge-driven economy, not what is on the ground. Very soon, we're talking about driving electric cars, so we'll be talking about of carbon. So it's an insult that we are talking about 2%, 10% for what ordinarily should be exploited, and then we think of what to do. If we are saying that, okay, we are getting 50% and then we distribute that to others who are less endowed, it's a different matter. than to say you come fix 2.5% and then you bring people to come and negotiate. At the end of the day, maybe make it 3%, and then they clap for you that you are. So for me, it's unacceptable. We must go back to true federalism, where states are allowed, as is done in other climes where true federalism is practiced.
Yes. When you were talking about the oil issue, petroleum industry bill, something came to mind. While we were working on the gas report, we went around and we noticed that there have been an increase in the price of gas, LPG, domestic cooking gas, and some of the retailers we spoke to, they were like, this gas is being imported into the country, hence the increase. They don't even understand why there is an overwhelming increase. Like every month you always will add, to the price of gas. And they were complaining that some of the marketers say that the foreign exchange is responsible for it. And that thing brings to mind the reason why we should let our refineries begin to operate in at its optimal capacity. I'd like you to dwell a bit on that. We were talking about Niger Delta resources, and we cannot leave out gas. Nigeria is the third largest producer of gas, has the largest reserve of gas.
Yes. Yet
we still import gas.
Is there anything we don't import in this country? Is it not a shame of a nation that we import petrol? 2 days ago, I went to refill my car and I saw the pump price jerked from the 160 to 165. I was asking the young man, why are you doing this? He said there's just they got wind that the dialogue between organized labor and the federal government, another, and they jacked up the pump price. So it tells you that we, as a nation, there's something wrong with us as a people. There's this parable that you can't be living by the bank of a river, and then you
allow soup to enter.
Yes, it's an irony. So the refineries are the theory is that the refinery is not as if it's not working, but they deliberately shut it down so that those who are involved in the importation of petrol can continue to smile to the banks at the expense of Nigerians. The same thing, the gas reserve we have in this country. Recently the federal government launched a revolution, the program they called the gas revolution, or whatever it is they called it. If gas alone, if they can pipe gas to all the households in Nigeria, you can imagine what that means to the economy of this country. So importing gas is an insult to Nigerians and an acceptance of failure of leadership to harness our God-given resources to the betterment of this nation. So that they increase the price. Recently, you saw look at the price of cement. Not that the manufacturers increase the price of cement, but the distributors, the cartel, they just met and they said, let us increase the price. So these things are responsible for the increase. When they talk about they are bringing gas from abroad, this is bunkum.
Terrible.
So it's a deliberate attempt by the marketers to do what? To continue to exploit Nigerians and then smile to the bank. And on Sundays, they will go to the church to lift holy hand. On Friday, they will go to the mosque.
I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Patrick Edema, for your insightful conversation. Well, it has been an interesting one on the program Business Angle, and thank you very much for being there to be part of the show by watching us on your TV sets. Do well to be there again next week for another exciting conversation on Business Angle. I'm Ogali Mafiru. Thank you very much for watching.